Okay, so this is an example of the home screen for a student. You would be able to see that for your own individual child. If you can see up there on the top, on the home screen, we have a couple of things. Number one, we have our welcome letter there. You can go ahead and read that, or your child can go ahead and read that. Oh, it's gonna set me back. This is what it would look like if you're going into your Naviance. So let me go from there. You would put in parent or guardian, or your student would go ahead and put that in. No, it just kicked me out, so I'm going to reboot us back into it. Sorry about that. I'm sure why this is not working. Hold on one sec. Now, why is it not going? Let's try again. 0, 0. Okay, we're back in. So this is the example of the home screen. There are different tabs up here: the self-discovery, career, college, and planner. For seniors, we are really going to concentrate on college because that's the emphasis or the theme for 12th grade. Self-discovery is just some of the assessments they have taken. Career was done in 10th grade, and college is the one that we're going to talk about today. So when I hit the tab, you can see different categories: find your fit, research, apply to college, and scholarships. The first one we're going to talk about is called Find Your Fit. So many of our students right now are making their college lists. Some have put them into the colleges they're thinking about. Some have moved already to the colleges I'm applying to. Some have not really started. So we want to also help them narrow down the scope. So the first one is called a Supermatch College Search. When you go on as you sit with your child, you would see the different criteria. For example, location, academics, admissions, student life, diversity, and so on. So if we go ahead and we click each of them on here, you can see what a student can choose. They can choose by state or region. They can choose by areas down here, campus surrounding, whether it's a large city, a small city, rural. And when they start clicking on each of them, they would go on to the next one, which was academics. So what are they looking for in a particular school? They are looking most likely for a bachelor degree right now. Or programs, they can sit there and actually search down. If you look at here, you can see all the different categories for different kinds of majors. And they can search also for institutions that have all their selections. The next one talks about admissions. So where their GPA is. If they have an SAT score, they would put it in here, or an ACT. And what is the acceptance rate of that particular school. The next one is student life. Are they looking for a Greek life at that college? Any kind of organization or club if they're interested in it. So they would go ahead, either type it or hit the drop down menu. They can look at internships and co-ops. If it has an ROTC program, they can also do that. Institution characteristics. So what does it look like? Is it a large school? Is it a small school? Is it a school that has graduate students on it, or is it undergrads only? So all those different things come up to a search. And once a student finishes there, then they would scroll down and they would see which schools meet their criteria. So it'd go down to each of the schools, and you can see by what percent. I'm trying to move us down here. And what percent we are at. how much the cost of the school is, and they would go down. First are 100%, 94%, and so on. So it would tell you exactly where the average 50% was at the time from last year, where the student is currently, and where their SAT or ACT scores if they have them. So that is the first one that kind of helps them to figure out, maybe that's a school that I might want to investigate. They can go into the actual school here, which is Tufts, as you can see. Look at name there. Okay, I don't know why. There it goes. It will tell a little bit about the overview, the average net price of the school, the graduation rate, acceptance rate, when the deadline is for that student, get to know a little about it, the information of that school, and how do you compare in terms of the GPA, the SAT, and the ACT. So that's just one example of a way a student might be able to look for a college. Another way a student can go ahead, slow for a second, back into the college one, is they can also look at an advanced college search. What that would mean is if they knew the name of the college they wanted to look up, they can go ahead and put that in. They can also put it in by the matches here, a very short one, and then they go on to next. They will also come up with matches on that one. They can also do the lookup of the actual school. So if they know the name of the school, they can go ahead and look keyword by country, state, any of that is also one that they can go and discover what they might, where they might want to go. Another part of college is actually researching colleges. So many of the students already have a list. They may have a list of 25 colleges on there or 27 colleges. Those are the ones that they're thinking about. When you click onto that, you will see a list of what they're saying. Maybe these are schools that I might want to apply to. If you look over here to the right, it says more. You can send in information, request some information from that school, visit the website. And there's this one called Scattergrams. Scattergrams show the student of our students that have applied to that particular school by their GPA and their test scores. So if you look at that there, it will tell you for Brown University with the SAT of 1600, the red are those schools that are those students that were denied entrance. You can see one green over here. That student was accepted. You see another, I don't know if you can tell, but there's another green right underneath here. It's really hard because they're all kind of mashed together. So it can tell you whether they applied regular decision, early decision, or early action, and how they fared with our school. So while they're on the colleges I'm thinking about, they can move that to the application. They would click one of these here and they would actually move it to the application, meaning they still wanted to go ahead and apply to that school. If they don't like that school anymore, they can remove it. That is one way they can look there. The other part of this would be college visits. So let's say they still are not sure about where they might want to go. And in the fall, we have about 110 colleges that come, and they're either virtually this year or they're actually coming on campus during lunchtime. They're out like in little mini fairs so they can go and talk to the representative that is there for the day. On Mondays and Thursdays, we have them. So if you look here, it will tell you what schools. Today we had 3 that visited. We had 2 that were virtual and they came. So every day they can go ahead and look to see what schools they might want to come and visit and talk to that admissions rep. We tell them that oftentimes the admissions rep is the person that's reading the application, or it's the regional rep. So it's really important to make some connections there. We have many students from 9th grade all the way up to seniors that are visiting the booths right now. So let's go on to College Compare. College Compare kind of talks about this, where the student is sitting, okay? and you can add colleges here to compare them with the actual GPA and the SAT. Another one, which we find is very useful, is the resource section. So if you look here, your student can go ahead and click on the different applications. The Common App is the one that has about 650 schools. So it's one application that they can fill out, and it can populate out to the schools that they are choosing. It looks like this. The student should create an account. They should have an email that's outside of our stu.spusd.net because that's only internal. So they should have a personal email to use that, and they can go ahead and create an account right there. Another part of the resource would be the coalition. The coalition is another account that some of our students use, not as many as the Common App. Schools like University of Washington use the coalition, so that would be the application. So if you look there we go, and they would go ahead and log in there or create their account down here. Another resource down here, if you keep going down, you'll see some on financial aid. The Fafsa opens on October 1st. We have a night this Thursday jointly with San Marino. It is virtual, and so if you'd like to hear a little bit more about the Fafsa and the CSS profile, you can go on there. Also, you can see the Fafsa here. And you would start here, and your student can log in if they already have an account, and that's where we start on. It's a little complex, but not too difficult. You will need your tax forms and everything to go ahead and start. So that's another one of the resources we have here. FastWeb is one that talks about some scholarships. So if you look there, you can see, start your search, targeted scholarships. They have part-time jobs also. Let me move that for a second. We also have in the research different kinds of financial aid and test prep. Now, the test prep is really interesting right now because many of the schools are what they call test optional. That means if a student has taken the test and wants to submit the score, they can. If they don't have a test score, they will not be viewed any differently. They are sitting there and they're looking at a very holistic review. So that means they're looking for students that have extracurricular. They're looking at their grades. They're looking at their rigor. They're looking at their letters of rec. So a lot of things go into that holistic review. If the student does not have a test, it is not going to be, they're not going to be in a lesser position. It's just they didn't submit a test. They also have the NCAA here for students who also are going in as athletes, and they also have the military. So we're going to go back into the college again. You can see that our next one talks a little bit about our acceptance history. If you look at this different schools, you can see how many students were accepted from each of the schools. In University of Alabama, since all years, I think it's since 2011. We have how many students, 19, and 5 actually enrolled. So you can go down and see American, we had 35 and 10. Arizona State, we had 50 and 15 had gone. University of Arizona, 69 and 16, and so on. So if you want to see our college acceptance history, it's over here. This bar keeps going in there. Okay, so the next one we have that I would like to highlight is when the student is ready to take their college list and move it from colleges I'm thinking about to colleges I'm applying to. So if you look here, you can see the college itself. You can click here to see the website, the type where it says EA, RD, that's early action. This is regular decision. So when it is an early action school, we know it's a November 1st deadline. So that means the student has to be completely finished with their application by November 1st. Okay, so if you look at different dates, the UC system all has the same date. It's November 30th. The Cal State system, it doesn't have it here, but it is also November 30th. Okay, so this is kind of how the student is starting to look at their list of the schools that they are applying. If you see over here, it says CA, that means it is a Common App school for us. If there's a line through it, that means it is not a Common App school. Or if you see this little icon of a computer with nothing in it, it could be a direct institution that your student would have to go ahead and fill out the application for that. If you look on the bottom of that, it says letters of recommendation. So your child should have asked a teacher or two, depending on where they're applying, for letters of recommendations. If you click here, you can see the student has the ability to say what school that particular teacher is writing for, okay? The UCs do not take a letter of rec, even though it says it here, it will not be sent to them, and the Cal States do not take letters of rec. The third level here is about test scores. So again, the student has the ability to go in and hit the plus sign and go ahead and put down their test scores. Here's their SAT, the subject test. He had taken it in 10th grade. It's no longer a test that they normally take. He can submit it if a school says that they will go ahead and take the subject test, but at this point, it is really not one that they will be submitting in. The SAT, they may be submitting in depending on the particular school. So how does all that interface with our Google Classroom? We actually have a Google Classroom. Each of the counselors have one with the students. I'm going to show you mine. This is my senior Google Classroom. It gives them the code and everything. This is actually my stream. Today I put something on, for example, the UC is not making any of the reps are not coming virtual on campus. Everything is virtual this year. So we went ahead and we put up the application tutorials for them so they can see the different ones. It's about extracurriculars, it's about majors, it's about the About You section. So they can watch it. It's anywhere between 4 to 6, 7 minutes long, each of them. They can go ahead and watch that. The one that we really want you to see, though, is the classwork. So there are different categories that I have here, all the way down from college resource tools. This was, we had put these in the spring of their junior year. We went through this, where they could find things. I'm applying to community college, I'm applying to the Cal State, I'm applying to the UCs, private independent colleges, financial aid. We had it down here for programming also. If you look at the top, though, you would see letters of rec to do now. So I'm requiring my students to go ahead and they are submitting different pieces of work here. They are doing their counselor questions, a college data sheet. That's where they actually will put in their colleges. You will, as a parent, we would like you to sign it also. Down here, the signature allows us to go ahead and transmit the transcripts to any other documents we need to do. Another one we talk about is the parent brag sheet. This is really important for parents. So if your child has not given this to you, ask them to download it from their Google Classroom and go ahead and fill that out. If you'd like to do it on a different sheet of paper, that's fine. There's 6 questions here that we normally ask parents to fill out. Another one that we have is their resume builder reference. That's back on Naviance. I'll show you, but it also tells them how to get onto Naviance and what to do and how to actually build their resume. So that's a very helpful tool also. So we do want them to look on their Google Classroom because everything comes through the stream. Everything is coming on their classwork of things that they need to do, where to upload it. Here's where they would upload it, and then they would go ahead also and bring in a paper copy to their counselor. So that is that part. Move this down. So let me go back here. The last part I really wanted to talk a little bit about is scholarships. So he has not done any scholarships application. It doesn't mean that he won't be, but right now he has not done any of that. So here, however, is a scholarship list. So it tells us his GPA, his numbers, and then it goes down to the different schools that are offering money, potential merit-based scholarship money for the GPA and the test scores. So you can just scroll down and see the different schools. Many of them are very small schools, so you might not know of them, but many of them will go ahead and give a merit-based scholarship right off the top of the tuition base. So you can see that. Okay. Also, there is a national scholarship search. So a student can actually do a search. I'm not sure why it's not coming up. It's like it's a little bit frozen. There it goes. It's thinking now. So they can put in about themselves and then their major's interest, their academics, and then they can go ahead and click the button and find some matching scholarships. As we know that free money is good money, so we're hoping that they will also look here on the scholarship page to make sure that they know that they can also do that. Sorry, let me move that up again. So that really kind of talks about where they're looking to research their colleges, how to apply to colleges. Let me go over to here, which is the About Me. That is exactly where they're going to find their resume. So this student actually didn't do his resume on here. He did it on another site. But if the student was going ahead, they could go ahead and they would start here of the objective. I always have them do their education first because that's the easiest part for them to do. South Pasadena, they would just go ahead and put that in. High school. South Pasadena. They are in 12th grade. They started in August of 2018. And they will be finishing in June 2022. Or they can do like this to present. So they go ahead and they can start adding it. So it will pop up on their resume, and then they can go ahead and figure out what the format they might want to put it in and have a really good resume. One of the things about resumes that is workable for students is that they're able to sit there and think about what were their work or what was their extracurricular and actually put it in chronological order. So it's really important for them to work on that. In addition, their counselor will ask them to bring in their resume. So wherever they have written it, we just would like it uploaded back on that Google Classroom. If they don't do it here on Naviance, they can do it on many different sites, or some of them are in virtual and they do that obviously for that. And they also do it for their internship. So all that comes into play also. All right. So let me get back to the Naviance. From my new page. There you go. So anything else here and About Me is really, we're not using too much of the goals or the portfolios. We used to use the journals. We don't use that anymore because we now use the Google Classroom, and the test scores I did already share with you how they go ahead about that. All right. So that's about what you can do in with the Naviance when you sit with your child. Just to let you know, oftentimes parents ask, well, what can I do and how can I help them? I think the best way to facilitate that help is to really kind of sit with them. They are now in the driver's seat. We do want them to be filling out the applications by themselves or with some help. I'm just saying we want them to actually take that lead. Sit with them, go over deadlines, because deadlines are really important. Students need to know that there is no late application. If it is late, they don't even look at it. So they really need to get it in on time. A couple kinds of really handy tips. For example, the UCs and the Cal States, they have the November 30th deadline. We tell them, please get it in before Thanksgiving. And the reason we say that is because there have been years where the system has gone down and they were not able to submit. So if you can go ahead and make sure that your child goes ahead and puts it in by Thanksgiving, then they can have a nice Thanksgiving. Also, they're not going to be worrying about their application. The deadlines are imperative for them to look at it, so they know if they have an early decision or early action, it is usually November 1st or November 15th. Regular decision is January 1st. And the other part that we always tell them is that if they have a January 1st deadline, we go off on, I think this year is December 23rd. So it's very difficult to reach their counselors at that point. So we really would like them to, again, finish, submit, and then have a nice break. Okay, so if you can help them with that and really talk about their choices. We usually say that students apply anywhere between 7, 8 to 11, 12 is usually the norm now, believe it or not. Some students have more, some students have less. Some students say, I only want to go to this college. If I don't go into this college, I want to go to a community college for 2 years and then transfer, so they don't have other schools on their list. So it really is to have that dialogue with them. And the other dialogue is, how much can you afford to send them? The private schools are very expensive now. The UCs are expensive. Even Cal State, they're creeping up. So just to have that dialogue of what they expect. Sometimes we have some upset students because they thought they're going to be able to go. And then when they see their financial aid packet, they realize they cannot make that amount. So have those dialogues with them. Just make sure that they are filling everything out completely, to see their counselor if they have any kinds of questions, to make sure they're on their Google Classroom looking for all the information that they need, in addition to all the paperwork they need to fill out before they actually have their interview with their counselor, to make sure they talk to their teachers who are writing their letters of rec and what the teacher might want from them. So all those things are really important for the students. We know it's a difficult time, it's really stressful, but we also know that it is very well worth it. So have those dialogues, please, and help them out. And we will do our side and we will help them out on at school also. And if you have questions, either reach out to your counselor or have the student walk in. We love it when the student actually walks in and sits down with us and kind of goes through things. We do have about 45 to an hour per student, just an isolated time frame, but that doesn't mean after they've had their hour that they can't come back to their counselor. So have them come and ask, because we can help read their personal statements, their personal insight questions. We go through anything that they need help on. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop talking. And Lolita, are there any questions that we need to answer on that?
I don't have any right now. If you would like to ask a question, you can send it to everyone in the meeting, or you can just send it to me directly. If there's anything that you want Tracy to go over, or excuse me, Mrs. Ishimuro, to go over, or something that you may have missed if you were a little late, just holler. Right now, I don't have any questions. I did have something really quickly. I know you said there was a map where we could see where the kids went to school.
Oh, yes.
Were accepted. Can you just go back to that?
It's right here under college maps.
And does it give any details of the student?
It just says colleges that accepted our students. So it depends what you want to look at. The 20 most popular colleges where our students applied. I'm just going to click on that just so you can see.
But it doesn't give the criteria of the student, like what.
No, it does not
they
give
have.
the criteria of that particular student. The criteria of the student is more on the scattergram, where it just has only the GPA and the test scores. It doesn't have any of the other things like what extracurricular they were in or anything of that nature.
Where is that, just in case?
That is, if you go on to colleges I'm applying to, you can see it over here on the right,
Okay.
where you hit the more. It's called Scattergrams. You can do it that way. It's probably really easy to do it.
Okay.
So hold on, it should be coming up, but it takes a little longer.
Got it. And as I'm asking that, and thanks everyone for indulging me on this, I just thought it was really interesting. I was doing this one day, and what you think a kid's gonna get in with, like, could be something completely different. I just thought it was interesting when I looked at it. I have a couple of questions. One here is, how do we find merit-based scholarships for the school our child is applying to?
So every school is different in terms of their criteria for merit-based. I would say first start on their website. Here, the ones that I showed you here on the colleges, these are just the ones that are listed on Naviance. It's not all the schools. So I would definitely first start on the website of that particular school. They will usually say if a student, for example, has a GPA of 3.5, we give X amount of money. They may say it that way. So just go ahead and look there.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Another parent has asked, when do students have their one-to-one with their counselor? Is that something that they should be scheduling now?
So we have already talked to our students. They are signing up on what we called Calendly, and Calendly has a certain dates that everyone is available. They just go in, they put in the date. For the first couple weeks of October, though, we're asking for students only that have an early action or early decision deadline, because those have to get out by November 1st. Some students are going regular decision, so they have a little bit more time. So we're asking them to make the meetings a little bit later, but they all should have a link to their counselor's Calendly so they can set up that meeting.
Got it. Another question is, how do we connect the Common App to Naviance and Coalition?
A perfect question. They actually got the directions how to do it. So what they have to do on the Common App, they have to finish what they call the education portion of the Common App. And then on the left-hand side, there is a title that says FERPA and recommenders. They would go ahead and they will click that, and the FERPA is about waiving their rights to make sure that we are allowed to send their documents on their behalf to the college. That is what they're waiving away. So they would go ahead and sign off on their FERPA. Once they do that, they can go onto their Naviance, and it'll pop up in front of them and say, is this your Common App email? Which is, again, an outside email, not a stu.sbusd.net email. And then they will verify their birth date, their name, their birth date, and they go ahead and say, yes, that matches, and it will automatically populate into that. Same thing with the coalition. It'll just automatically populate into it.
Got it. And right now we don't have any others. Again, just please send any other questions. I did on the scholarship question. I hear a lot about local scholarships, local clubs. Will that be on the scholarship list later as they become available?
Yes, the scholarship list, as it gets in the spring, is really when many of the scholarships come out for our seniors. Some are based on community service, some are based on different needs, some are based on just on the category that it's in. So that comes out in the spring. But I showed you like FastWeb on there. There are different kinds of search engines for scholarships that they can apply for now. There are some that they can apply even before they hit their senior year. So they have a document that they took home when we last met them, but it's also housed on their Google Classroom. It's called the top 10 list, and they can go there and look at it and see of the different search engines for the scholarship, and maybe they'll find some. There's things like Red Vine has had scholarships before, Duct Tape has had scholarships. I mean, things that we normally use. So it's kind of interesting for students to start searching around to see how much they're giving. They have the Edison one that is quite extensive. I think it's $10,000 a year that they give to one student, and it's for the 4 years. So it just depends on what they can qualify, whether that's merit or maybe interest or the school itself.
And that would be on the scholarship list or the national?
That would be, we are going to move everything to, it used to be on our website, but we're moving it all onto Naviance because we kind of want a one-stop place for everybody now, so they can just see it there.
Got it. Because one of the questions were the scholarships listed only at the counseling office? So no, it's going to start being listed here.
It will be
as
listed on Naviance usually.
Got it. How many years does the scatter plot data go back for SPHS? And
since the PTSA so generously helped us get this program, I believe it was either 2009 or 2011. It wasn't quite here at the high school, so it's around there. So it's about a 10-year data point.
And then I have another question. How can we compare GPA on colleges' scattergrams? Is it unweighted GPA or weighted GPA?
We are that's a great question. We are an unweighted school. That means our top GPA will be 4.0. Okay, so everyone that you see on here is under a 4.0 GPA.
Got it. And then should the student be involved in filling out the FAFSA at all?
Yes, there is a portion, especially if they work, because they're going to ask for their financial aid, financial documentation. It's very easy for parents because they now have a data retrieval tool, which means that it will go into the IRS and you say, yes, I want it to be uploaded. So it automatically, you push the button and it automatically puts it onto your FAFSA. So it's actually really nice on that.
Oh, good. Good. And someone asked about how can we find out our students' class rank?
We do not rank at our school. We've been an unranked school for many, many, many years. So when this question is, what is your child's rank? Just put NA because we don't rank it. It's on our school profile. It says the same thing.
Got it. And then do we as parents have any access to the Google Classroom or just the students?
You can see a portion of that, yes, but they have the total access of that.
Okay.
You can see the actual, I think parents can only see, you can see the some of the assignments, but other things I don't think you can see, like you won't see the stream and everything.
How often do you recommend, and this is just a question I thought of, for us as parents to get on Naviance now as senior parents?
I think the capability for a parent of a senior is limited. You can put on colleges that you want them to apply to, but most of it is through their child. Okay. And it depends. Some students look at it pretty often. Some students look at it less often. I think it is really something that is a joint journey in many respects. So the student can show you, hey, this is what I'm thinking about, and to have those dialogues, it's really important for them to understand where everybody's coming into that process. So it just depends on the individual child, but of course, as it gets closer to the deadline, it would be definitely important to get on to say, hey, okay, did you finish this, and just kind of make sure that they have everything done.
So another parent says, I know there's no rank, but is there a way to find out if our student qualifies for the guaranteed admission to a UC that has room? I think they have to be in the top 15 or so.
Yes, we've already sent in the top 15%, and they actually choose the top 9%. It's a program called the Eligibility in the Local Context, the ELC. And so your student would already know that from their junior year if they made it in that top 15%. That was
how would they know that, or how do
they were notified? They were notified that they were in the top.
Oh, at the end of the year, and like an email or something would have gone out?
Yes, because we weren't normally we do it in person, but last year we didn't do it in person. So.
But again, it's something that our student would know.
They would definitely know if they already were in that ELC.
Got it. Okay. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anyone. I know if you're like me, I'm like looking, trying to do what you were doing and like checking stuff out. At the same time, are there, is there like a top 3 things that we should ask our students like tomorrow about, do you have the brag sheet? Let me fill it out. Or like, are there 3 things we should be sort of like right now at this moment?
So if you're talking about college, yes, the parent brag sheet would be really good to ask them where there is, especially if they have an early action or early decision deadline, because that's coming up and I'm sure their meetings are either this week or next week already. So that is one part. I think really just to have that dialogue with them in terms of where they are in the process. I have students that are still in the super match process part, that they haven't really gotten their college list down. So it's getting them moving in that direction, if that is their plan. And then moving them saying, okay, here's all these schools that you put down. Let's now make that list a little bit shorter. And really any of the schools that are on that list, your child should be happy if they get that acceptance to. Don't put on something there that they don't want to go to, because then it's just money that you're paying for a place that they're going to say, no, I'm not even going to go, even if I get accepted. And oftentimes we see that too. So really just to narrow that list down and to have those dialogues with them to say, hey, let's talk about this. And what are you feeling that you want to do? Some of them want to talk about, well, I don't know my major, so it's okay to apply undecided. 60% of schools have reported at the college level that students change their major once they walk in. I would say also, as a parent, the other thing to look at on these universities is whether they have what they call an impaction of a major, meaning that there have a lot more people applying to that majors than they can even possibly fit at their school, because many of them, for example, like nursing in California is a highly impacted major. So maybe that means they're going to go out of California to look for a nursing program. So it's just those kinds of little nuances to look at when your child is applying. And if they're going to the East Coast, do they like cold weather? You know, things like that. I mean,
Get ready for snow, people.
Exactly.
So there's a couple of other tricklers coming in. I just, so that we make sure we get them all in. Can you tell us more about the UC's 9% program and what schools does that apply to?
Well, it used to way in the back was that they got to apply to the school and they would allow them to go into their first choice. Now it is not that way because of the impaction of the total number of students applying to the UC. So if they're in the top 9%, they will be offered a UC, but it may not be the UC that they have on their list.
Oh, okay. Oh, I did not know that. Got it. Got it. Got it. And it would be all the UCs. So if it impacts the school, it's all those UCs.
It's all the UCs. Obviously, as you know, UCLA got their record-breaking numbers of applications this past year. Berkeley, every single UC had more applications than they could possibly take in.
Got it. All right. How important is it for students to be in contact with the schools or have demonstrated interest in?
That's a really good question. So many schools are not using that demonstrated interest criteria because of the pandemic. Some will say, what is it? Like they can't necessarily fly and go to a school to demonstrate they're interested in that particular school. But I would have the student actually do some research of the school, because many of them ask this question of why Northwestern, you know, why Santa Clara? And if the student doesn't know anything about the school, they say, oh yeah, well, they have a really nice, I don't know, nice campus. The food's good. They don't want that kind of answer. And they really don't want necessarily an answer of something that they can just find out if they read the website.
Right.
There are so many virtual tours out there. There's also some that we put in our Google Classroom where they can go in and just click some of the sites that they can look at schools from, for example, from a student's point of view, like Campus Real. You can see, oh, the student's talking about the dorming or the food, and, you know, things that maybe as adults we don't always think about, but as students or young adults going into a school, well, does that mean I have to be in a room with 2 other students? Or, you know, how is the food and how do I do that? So there's other parts of that campus that they should probably be looking at too.
Got it. Got it. So another parent asks, when I fill out FAFSA, does it automatically connect to Naviance?
The FAFSA does not connect to Naviance. The FAFSA goes straight to the federal government. We don't get to see that at all.
Oh, okay, got it. In general, do smaller schools offer more merit aid than bigger universities? And how can we find schools that offer the most merit aid?
So there is no one answer to that. There are schools that offer more merit aid, and it's not necessarily the size of the school, but it's more the size of their endowment. So if it is a school that has a very large endowment, most likely a lot of that is transferred back into their scholarships, whether that's merit or need-based scholarships. So there isn't one answer for that particular question. It is just doing your research. Like I said, go on, hit the school that you're thinking your student might want to go to, see whether they have any kind of, are they a need-based, certain schools like Stanford have a certain cutoff for parents in their finances and say, if you're above this, we'll pay for X amount of dollars. If you're below this, we'll pay for this amount of the tuition. So you just have to kind of look.
And is that like under their financial aid link?
Yes, it'd be under their financial aid. You can just go ahead and click onto there.
Got it. Then we had another parent who just simply asked, what is our class size? What is the senior class size?
It's 362. They also have that on the paper that we gave them.
Is that small or large or? About?
That's a pretty normal size for our senior class.
Okay. I think so far I've gotten them out. Is there anything else as parents, if you guys are out there? We have 44. Tracy, thank you so much for like walking us through this step and answering these questions. This has been really, really eye-opening in ways when you think you know everything and then you're like, oh, I didn't know that either. So it's great. And it's just, it's, I don't know about your kids, but sometimes they don't tell you everything. So it's really nice for you to like explain. So I think so far that's it. I'll just stay in. We'll stay here for a little while longer. If anyone has any other questions, of course, make sure your student connects with their counselor, right?
Yes.
Individually, and then either create their create a time to meet with their counselor.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you everybody for coming tonight. We do appreciate it.
This is great. Any other questions? Okay, hold on. I have one more. Wait. If our student attends a CC, if our student attends a CC community college, is it easy to get into classes that they'll need to transfer to a 4-year school?
So you're talking about the actual classes on the community college.
I believe so.
So if they go to PCC, that is our feeder community college. And what's lovely about them is they will come to our campus. They will help the students fill out the application, but they also have a program called Pathways, and Pathways allows our students to choose a certain pathway. That's why it's called that. But it also allows them to be in the front of the line to choose their classes.
Oh.
So we're right after the foster students and the military, and then the pathway students go in. So getting their classes are really not too much of a problem because we have them all sign up for that program. They also get counselors there that will help them out, fill out what they need to be in for 60 units and then out to go to their transfer to their UC or private school or CSU.
Got it. Good question and good answer. I did not know about Pathways. That's really interesting from PCC. How would our students go about taking a gap year, which I know that happened last year as well?
So if a student would like to take a gap year, it depends on the university or the college that they may be applying. Some will allow them to apply this year and say, I'm taking a gap year, and then have them come in the following year. Some colleges will not allow them to do that and say, okay, you're gonna take the gap year, take your gap year, and then apply the following year to that university. So it depends on the school. How do they take gap years? It depends what the students want to do. Some want to go on some type of mission. There are programs out there. We have a few that are in our Google Classroom also, if you want to have your child look at that or have them show that to you, how to go ahead and apply for a gap year or some of the types of programs that are available for a gap year.
Got it. And then Since the GPA is unweighted, is
Mhm.
there any merit for students who take honors or AP classes?
That's a great question. The ones that actually weight would be the UC systems and the Cal State systems, and they will weight only 4 classes of honors in 11th grade primarily, or AP classes. In 10th grade, they do not usually, unless it's like a Spanish or foreign language 5-6, which is actually the 3rd year of the language. Most of them will not be, even though they're in honors in sophomore year, it's not the ones that they're going to look at. And the UCs and the Cal States, they actually have a GPA calculator that you just put in the grades and they will go ahead and calculate your weighted GPA.
Okay. Lastly, one last one that just came through. And how much will SAT scores be considered in admissions?
Depending on the school, the UCs and the Cal States are not using the tests anymore. It depends on the university. Some top tier schools say they would like them, but if they put in their test scores, even if they're test options, they put in their test scores, they're not going to be going head to head with a student that doesn't have a test score. So it's sort of like apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So if you put in your test score, they will look at it, but it's not one of the deciding necessary factors now.
Okay. Is it considered bad if a student has a high SAT but a lower GPA?
I don't think that's bad because it's just one of the different criteria that they're going to be using. Like I said, there's many things and many factors or that they sit there and they look at. They're looking at what classes did the students take? What was the rigor? Did the rigor grow? What was the GPA? What was the test score? What was the extracurricular activities? What is their passion? What are their interests? What does their teacher say about how they are in a classroom? I mean, many of our students are exceptionally, exceedingly bright. Their work habits may not be as good as their brain power. So what does that mean? Well, when they go to college, will that change? Will that grow? We're hoping that all that grows because as they mature, then they tend to be a little bit more organized. So it is only one of the factors that they're sitting there looking. Like I said, some are there in the neighborhood school that they're applying to. There's so many different things.
Awesome. Well, at 7:55, I think we have gotten everybody in. Thank you again, parents, for participating and staying. And obviously, Tracy, yay. We're so thankful to have you and the other counselors to help guide our students and us through this really intense process. We're getting a lot of thank yous. So thank you again. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording.
Perfect.
Y'all hear that?